Alright, how's it going, guys? I'm back for another Black Survival guide. Today's on Sissela. I'm doing things a little bit differently than I did in my Bernice guide. Tried to make it a little bit more polished, a little bit more professional, I suppose. So I'm going to include a kind of table of contents at the very beginning, so if you want to skip to a part that is kind of like the only reason you came to the video to see, by all means go do that and skip the rest if you'd like. Let me know what you guys think about this format, but let's just get right into it. So as Sissela, you're the Bella, tank blows, shrug off damage as if it's just a light snack. With deceptively strong stats, she's the sustainable tank that, while she's a little bit of a gamble pick, in my opinion, watch out for when she breaks her chains, as a well-timed Unshackled can fry a runner, steal a kill, or just pile on a ton of pressure from the cover at a very, very safe distance across the map. Okay, so let's talk abilities. So it's not that she's weaker at different parts of the game, but her abilities kind of shine separately at different parts of the game. So early to mid-game, Agony Bear shines with a full pain stack netting 15 HP free recovery, which can end up completely negating an opponent's attack in certain circumstances, and is one of the most effective abilities to use to kind of farm mastery, only really kind of given competition in that respect by something like Hanwoo's Dogfight. And in the later half of the mid-game, or into the late game, as damage starts to rack up to the point where you can't really just rely on Agony Bear alone anymore, this is the point when Unshackled really takes center stage. So having earlier been a little more than a kind of a mild nuisance, a little tickle, chip damage isn't really very often worth the channel time in the very, very early game. This is where all that changes. Unshackled becomes a very, very dangerous punishing tool that can turn really a tiny misplay that your opponent makes into their funeral. So kind of wanting to talk about her strengths and weaknesses. She's really good, like I mentioned, at punishing misplays. Unshackled is really good at punishing a misplay that your opponent makes. Kind of for this reason, she has kind of an overall favorable matchup versus characters like Alex or Jenny, as their kind of failsafe abilities rely on not being found and not on not being targeted. So something like Jenny, if you prompt her play dead, you can still target her with Unshackled, which is really, really cool. So you're able to kind of kill her through her failsafe, which is really cool. Same with Alex as well. You can kill him through stealth, which is really nice. She's a very sustainable character. She can recover a lot of HP with Agony Bear, get a lot of HP back, and that's going to help her, first of all, bridge kind of the gap between levels and masteries between her opponents, but it's also going to be able to let her kind of farm up mastery really, really quickly and take on the majority of the cast just with kind of her passive healing. Moving on to the weaknesses, it's going to sound like there's a lot of weaknesses, and there are. Every character has a lot of strengths and a lot of weaknesses. It might sound like there's kind of more weaknesses for Sissela, but I do think she's a very strong character, just in general, but of course I would be lying if I didn't bring up things that I thought were weaknesses. So one of the big things is she's very prone to being harassed, because in order to kind of get value out of her abilities, she needs to be at a full pain stack. So a hit and run strategy, being harassed, being hit with a significant amount of damage, burst damage, before she can build her stack up is going to be a very effective way of kind of harassing her, in putting her in a situation where she can't really benefit from her abilities. So characters like Sylvia can do this really effectively. Characters even like Hanwoo can come in and spam Dogfight on her. Something like Shuichi can come in and deny her of mastery building as well, which is all things that she kind of struggles with as well. And kind of continuing on that point, just in general, she has a reliance on her stack being kind of at full. She needs 5 stacks to be kind of being as effective as she can. So she does have a bit of a reliance on having her pain stack being at full. She has a bit of an awkward time kind of setting up for the late game, kind of getting all her items together, getting all of her stuff together, and like I said, if she's able to be harassed effectively, I find once she's put into a situation where she has to start catching up, she is really in the back spot, and it's really hard for her to catch up. Something else to bring up, kind of, this is kind of an awkward, not really awkward, this is kind of like in between, because it's in a way a strength and it's in a way a weakness, I suppose, if you can make it like that. Very, very early game, I'm saying, like, at the very beginning of the game, first, like, 30 seconds of the game when you start, Agony Bear gives you the buffer kind of to beat pretty much every character 1v1 in terms of recovery, in terms of out-sustaining, and in terms of out-damaging for a brief period of time. You can basically beat everyone in the game. However, starting with a throw weapon or starting with a gun are both consumables. You both use them up. So while in theory you can beat pretty much every character, from playing a lot of characters consistently, I find Sissela, if you're, because I wanted to test it, I wanted to see how it would happen if you're just, going all overall against one character. And against people who are really, really stubborn, you go into one area against one person and you just fight them, you're going to consistently get them down to about 20-30%, and they're going to get you down to like, what, 90% because of Agony Bearer, and then after that you're going to run out of consumables. And what are you going to do? You have you can't hit them anymore. So they're down to like 30%, but you can't do anything to them. You have no weapon. You're now playing in the back burner because you have to find weapons, and it's awkward because, like I said, if you go to another area and there's a person there and you're trying to find another weapon, then you're forced out of there because you can't start hitting them. You can't even just take a hit and then leave because you're not building up mastery. And that's just the biggest thing, is once you run out of item, you're not building up mastery, you're having to play catch up, you're not able to start building onto any of your other items, you start to get really far behind, and the advantage you gained by being able to 1v1 every character to the point of bringing them to like 30%, the advantage you gained from that in terms of mastery, in terms of kind of a lot of things right there, is lost by you playing catch up. So yeah, Sissela, Agony Bearer lets you 1v1 pretty much everyone in the game. At the very, like in terms of equivalent mastery, equivalent armor, equivalent offensive stats, equivalent levels, things like that. But that only works if you are able to start hitting the back. So that's in a sense why some people have talked about blunt being a potential thing, because even with a lower mastery in that stat, you still don't run out of it, I suppose. But yeah, that's just a really annoying thing I've found several times. That's why I kind of find Sissela a little bit of a gamble pick, because if your early game goes bad, then your game's gonna go bad. Because like if you start going into catch-up mode, then it's gonna be a bad game. A lot of times Sissela can just pop off, do really, really good if your early game goes well. But like I said, if you're facing stubborn people, if you go to areas and you just are forced out of areas to the point where you start running out of actual items to use as weapons, then you're forced into that back burner, into that kind of catch-up mode, and while you're catching up, you're not gaining mastery. Everyone else is gaining mastery. Everyone else is building, upgrading their weapons that they've built, and you're still trying to get a weapon, I suppose. So like I said, like you should always have backups, you should always have backups to backups, you should always have backups to backups to backups. But if you go to an area like Chapel, and like let's say you want to build like a throwing weapon, and you go to an area like Chapel, and it's contested to the point where, like, let's say you take the brawl and you take the 1v1 and you start running out of ammo, you start running out of consumables rather. You leave the Chapel, you say, let me go somewhere else. And after that you go to the forest, and there's a Hanwu there, and you've got, 3 consumable thrones left. That's not going to be enough to 1v1 the Hanwu, so you leave the forest, you say, okay, let me go to a fire station, let me start picking up items, let me try to pick up items there. You go to the fire station, maybe there's someone there. I mean, the fire station isn't the most contested area early game, but maybe there's someone there. Maybe, okay, even if there's like a JP there, if there's a JP and you've got no items to throw at him, you can't beat a JP with, I mean, like, okay, you can, like, it's not like JP's doing that much back to you, but like, you're wasting time. I guess giving mastery to JP doesn't generally matter too much. I mean, I guess, okay, I'm getting off track because I want to just, cover all options. I don't want to get into JP there. I guess there are offensive options for JP if you, want, but like I'm saying, you go to the fire station, let's say there's a JP, or let's say there's just anyone there, and you've got no thrones left. It doesn't matter if you can out-sustain them. If you're, in the long run, if you're not hitting them back, out-sustain only lasts so long when you're giving them free mastery. And then after that, what do? Let's say you go to the tunnel and you're trying to craft something, and like, you see what I'm saying? You've just gone to 4 different areas, and you've got nothing from it. You've wasted a ton of stamina. You've wasted potentially a ton of HP by having to take a hit from each area. You've gained 0 mastery. You've gained nothing from this, and you're on your 4th area still trying to build a weapon. You've got no armor. You've got no nothing. All you have is a pain stack that's at 5. So that's basically the thing. Like, that's why she's a bit of a risky pick. if you're going that route. I guess maybe I'm just looking at things wrong, but from my experiences, she's a bit of a risky pick in that sense. And moving on to weapon pass right here, she has a few options for her, gun and throw, and there's a few people as well who recommend blunt, which I wouldn't want to use it just because it's so low, but it's a lot more reliable than the other two options. So depending on your playstyle, if you're more offensive, you would want to stick with gun or throw. But it really depends on kind of playstyle. But I'll get into a bunch of options that you can have. Guns are kind of very high risk, high reward. They can outpace, out damage very, very quickly. However, on the alternative side, they can attract players to you, and they can just end up leaving you playing catch up for the rest of the game as well, by being outpaced, by being chased, by people coming down on you, by trying to get more ammo, stuff like that. Throw weapons, they're kind of high risk, high reward as well. They're very, very high maintenance. They can leave you empty-handed and back at square one if you do run out of your weapon. Throw weapons just in general are really awkward, because if you end up like running out of your throw weapon, then you're back to square one, and it's going to be so far into kind of playing catch up that it's just not even worth playing, if you do of course run out of the item. So you have to be very careful with managing, very careful with cycling through your weapons and making sure you have a sufficient supply at all times. And like I said, I'll go over a couple of different routes that I use with Sissela for her. I'll go over kind of her throne route that I take first. So starting at the chapel, starting at the forest are both kind of alternatives for her, kind of interchangeable. I think starting at the chapel I generally prefer. Just a lot of people, there are a decent amount of people who like to start at the chapel, and like I said, if there's 2 or 3 people who start there, you're gonna run out of supplies by the end of that. So if you can't bully people out of the chapel, then you can always just go to the forest, build up a tomahawk, and then go back to the chapel after. But let's say starting at the chapel, you're going to want to pick up something like a cassock, pick up the cross, pick up scrap metal, pick up the glass marble, and the holy water. For this build, I put a lot of kind of emphasis on 3 things. Not really emphasis, but there's 3 things that I kind of wanted to as the focal point of the set. I wanted to have the Crimson Bracelet, the Crimson Bracelet and the Uchiwa, I believe. Both those for survivability. And then the other thing that I want to put as the kind of the focal point of the set is a heavy emphasis on recovery items for sustainability. So I wanted a route that can effectively build me the Uchiwa, the Crimson Bracelet, and a lot of recovery items. So just going back to cassock into cross, upgrade that, it gets the bishop cassock, scrap metal, holding onto that, glass marble, we're holding onto that and going to try to build that into the doll as soon as we can, and holy water we're going to want to get, like I said, for sustainability. Throwing knives are optional. If you can get throwing knives, that's really nice. If you can get throwing knives and a cross, that's even better, but don't waste your time trying to get it, because you're just going to waste your time, and then you're just going to drop them later. After this, moving on to the forest, get leather, get hatchet, you're going to have a tomahawk right there, which is really nice. As I'd mentioned, the secondary ability is a very nice ability. It's for this and the D-Axe, which is really, really nice. Having the Onyx Dagger. Having the Onyx Dagger is nice because you don't have to use your tomahawks, and you don't have the most tomahawks that you start with, and I don't like the idea of waiting to get 2 leathers and 2 hatchets to make a good supply of these, because you're going to be upgrading them soon and you're going to be using those upgrades, and you only need 1 supply to basically sufficiently have enough supplies to upgrade a good amount of D-Axes. So having the Onyx Dagger is really nice here because, like I said, you don't have to start using up your supplies with the tomahawks as a way of getting mastery, as a way of defending yourself, because going back to square one and having to rebuild tomahawks later in the game when you're trying to upgrade them, it's just really, really annoying. So leather, hatchet, iron ore. Get iron ore. That's going to upgrade you with your scrap metal into steel. And ideally, in an ideal world, you would have picked up 2 scrap metals from the chapel. That's what we're aiming for. If not, you can get another scrap in a few other areas I'm going to bring up very soon. But ideally, we pick up 2 from the chapel, and then that's going to be giving us 4 steels, which is nice, which is really nice. From the forest, we can also get grass, oriental grass, if we'd like. Especially if we don't have very many, holy waters as well. So ideally as well, we're going to try to get the oriental grass. After that, we're going to move over to the temple, get the fabric armor that's going to upgrade into the sheet metal armor, which is going to upgrade completely into the crusader armor, which is really nice. It's going to free up I'll give us a lot of room, a lot of kind of wiggle room defensively, I suppose. We're going to get a cloth that's going to upgrade into the doll, which is really nice. That's also going to work on our sustainability as well. Pick up a hairband at the temple. If we had time at the forest, we would have picked up a branch to upgrade into the circlet. If not, whatever, you can work with it later. And at the temple, you can also pick up leather, which is nice because if you got chased out of the forest but you had a hatchet, that can also upgrade you now into your tomahawk as well. So that's kind of option as well, just to talk about right there. From the temple, we'll go to the slum, and if you got kind of harassed to the point where you do definitely need the recovery items, you can visit the slum before the temple, for sure. That's definitely an option as well. The slum is going to be giving us a lighter, which we can use to upgrade into the oriental grass to get recovery items. It's going to be giving us potentially ramen, and as well, of course, a thing to cook the ramen on. It's going to give us more scrap metal if we need it. It's going to give us a cloth if we didn't get it from the temple, or like I said, if we're visiting the slum before the temple, that's also going to be giving you the cloth right there to upgrade into the doll. And extremely importantly, we're going to be getting the bracelet, which is going to help us upgrade into the Crimson Bracelet later on. So from here, we'll move on to the fire station. We'll get hammers. We will get water, which is really nice because we have basically, at this point, we've ran out of all our stamina items. So we'll be able to fill up on water to the point where we can start not running out of stamina, I suppose, a lot. We'll get batteries and we'll get boots, I suppose, which will be kind of a decent, it'll be better than having no leg armor. We can go from here to the tunnel, and at the tunnel we'll get wires and gemstones. Ideally, we would have gotten 2 batteries from the fire station. That's very important. I didn't mention that, but yeah, 2 batteries from the fire station. And at the tunnel, you can go here until you get 2 wires, and that's going to give you a lot of D-axes. That's going to be using 2 more of the steels as well. So that's going to be really nice. You're going to be using the steels from that to upgrade. After here to the tunnel, I didn't mention this before, but you want to get 2 batteries from the fire station, not just 1. And when you go to the tunnel, you're going to want to get 2 wires to be specific, and gemstones. Gemstone is going to upgrade into the hammer, and that's going to upgrade into the bracelet, give us a crimson bracelet, which is nice. It's fully upgraded there. And the wires are going to upgrade with the batteries into electronic parts, which are going to upgrade into our steel to give us a motor, and that's going to upgrade, of course, obviously into the tomahawk to give us the D-axe. And you can do that a couple of times and give yourself a pretty sizable stack of the D-axe as well, with a kind of backup of the tomahawks as well, which you're going to be kind of consistently cycling through, consistently restocking up on the D-axes throughout the game. Now, I also want to give a gun route as well, because that's a viable option for as well. I don't want to kind of sing too many praises about this route, because this route probably isn't the best and probably needs tweaking as well, but it's a route that I've taken, and it's a route that has worked decently well, I suppose, with me for an extent, before I kind of saw the light and went over to using Throne with Sissela, which I find really fun. It's very, very, like, with Sissela, Throne Sissela either pops off or just does terrible. Gun Sissela, I find, is just it's a little bit safer, I suppose, gives you a little bit more leeway, I suppose, from my experiences. But I'll go over it really quickly. I'll go over kind of how I've done with it. So I like to start the chapel just like I start otherwise, because like I said, same basic premise of the set. We want to be focusing on sustainability. We want to kind of build into the Uchiwa, we want to build into the Crimson Bracelet, we want to get a lot of recovery items. So I started the chapel just like I did before with everything else. Get the castle, get the scrap, and the marble. Another interesting thing about the chapel is you can get a lot of guns at the chapel. So if you get the Beretta, then get the Beretta. There is actually a decent amount of Berettas at the chapel, so you technically are probably going to be able to find it at there. So you get the gun if you can. You generally won't really get very many bullets, if bullets at all, at the chapel. That's why it's an awkward start at the chapel, because if you get, like I said, if you get chased out, or if you get into an engagement, you're not going to be able to restock on bullets at the chapel, but it's a little bit more forgiving because you still have the gun, you just have to go find bullets, and there's a lot of good areas you can get bullets from that aren't as contested. Still, if there's someone at the beach and someone at the dock, it's a little bit annoying to get bullets, but it's not the end of the world, and it's not anywhere near as devastating as if you would have ran out of your throne item. But anyway, chapel, you get those items. You definitely get Definitely get the holy water for sure. You definitely want to get the holy water. You get a glass marble as mentioned before, and then once you're stocked up with that stuff, you can move over to the dock. Dock is going to give you a hammer, so pick up your hammer. Dock is going to give you bullets, so definitely get the bullets. You can also get the second gun for the upgrade into your Beretta, because you need the Beretta and you need the Walter, and you need 2 steels to upgrade those. But I found inventory space to be lacking when I try to upgrade the gun at the same time that I upgrade armor and upgrade other kind of defensive items and get stamina items and build up for the late game. So if you are building up for the late game, I wouldn't bring the Walter with me, and I wouldn't kind of rush from there. I find upgrading the Beretta and your armor at the same time to be working effectively enough for me as a kind of late game build. For more offensive route, there's a lot more offensive options. You can, I guess, if you want to rush the arms contender. I didn't mention it, sorry, but yeah, this is building into the arms contender. Like I said, you can rush that if you really want. You can rush other guns if you want. This set of this build is kind of a later game, kind of more sustainable, less aggressive. Not as aggressive. I mean, it still has offensive merits for sure. That's whenever I say not as offensive, I always picture people thinking it's like doesn't have offensive options, but it does have offensive presence, the set. But anyways, going back to it, like I said, I don't like to pick up the Walter because I find I'm just going to be ending up either wanting to drop it or actually dropping it later in the game. You can get whetstone, and you can get a tuna here, which is really nice. You can also get a turtle shell, so either or, I suppose. I generally prefer the tuna and the whetstone, but if you can't get that and you're pressed for time and you have a turtle shell, you can move on with that. But all of these items I mentioned right here are going to be going for recovery items, and recovery items, like I said, very important, very heavy emphasis for the set, and you can move on from there to the slum. The slum is going to give you a lighter, which you can use with the whetstone and cook your tuna. It's going to potentially give you ramen. It's going to give you cloth to upgrade your doll. It's going to give you a bracelet, which you can equip, and that's going to be giving you more. It's almost a complete crimson armor, because like I said, you got the hammer from the dock. And if you went with a turtle shell, you'll get the cooking bot here as well, and the cooking bot can give you recovery items for there as well. And then after this, there's 2 areas you have to visit. You have to visit the trail, and you have to visit the temple. The temple is going to give you fabric armor, which can completely upgrade your crusader armor. Going to give you cloth if you missed it at the slum. It's going to give you a hairband that you can upgrade as well. The trail is going to give you iron ore, which you're going to be able to make your steel with. I mentioned, like I said, you got the scrap from the chapel. If you miss the scrap from the chapel, you can get it from the slum, which is kind of cool as well. But you're going to be able to upgrade your steel right here. It's going to be able to upgrade fully your armor, and it's going to be able to give you an upgrade to your gun. You'll be able to get a gemstone here from the trail. It's going to completely upgrade your crimson bracelet as well. You can get boots right here as well. That's another thing. And like I said, when you visit the temple, you get cloth. When you visit the slum, you get cloth. And that can upgrade and start working on battle boots. You can also get oriental grass. I mentioned if you got the lighter at the slum to make a whetstone, then you'll still have a lighter left over. If you had inventory space to bring lighter with you, then you can make boiling water and start making oriental grass concoctions as well. You can also get the branch from the trail, but you're probably not going to have the inventory space to hold the branch and bring it to the temple, but that's just something to talk about as well. And then after this, you're just going to want to work into upgrading your gun fully. And in upgrading your gun, like I said, you're going to be making extra steel. The extra steel can go into working onto your battle boots, and the temple as well goes into working on your battle boots. When you go to the temple, you can be making the knee pads, which are going to be going to steel knee pads when you have that extra steel, and of course that's going to be going into the battle boots. And that's basically the entirety of the route. Just make sure you kind of keep stocking up on recovery items and keep upgrading as best you can, and keep working on everything you can. That's basically my analysis on Sissela. That's basically my ideas on Sissela. I still believe she's kind of a high-risk, high-reward character, kind of a bit of a gamble of a pick, but she can definitely really dominate games. She can definitely really go she can definitely be very, very effective, but she does need a good start. She does need a lot of things to kind of succeed, but I do definitely think she has a lot of potential. I do think she's actually very strong in what she can do. But yeah, that's going to about wrap it up. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought. Let me know if you guys thought that I did the formatting wrong, or if I'm doing something that looks kind of ugly or looks kind of awkward, let me know, and I'll try to improve the things that I'm doing in the next kind of guides I want to do. I kind of wanted to go over Sissela now, because I've really been playing a lot of her recently for fun, and I really like her. I wouldn't call her my main. I would say my mains are Bernice and Jenny, I would say. I play a decent amount of Hunwoo too, but I don't think I'd call him my main, I suppose. But I do play a lot of her. I really like her design. I think she's really cool. I think she's really fun, and I just really wanted to get this out there, and I really wanted to make this. And I've been working on this for ages, and I think in the time that I made this, people came out with their own guides, and people came out with gameplay videos, all on Sissela. So this might look like I'm like riding off of like a trend, potentially. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it isn't. But yeah, I've been working on this for weeks. I've actually been working on this for weeks. I've been writing out a whole bunch of information, a whole bunch of data, a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know. I'm just happy to get it out. I like talking. I like kind of analyzing things, and especially for just characters I enjoy. I like unique characters. I like unique designs. That's what kind of draws me to a lot of different characters and designs that kind of do cool things, like something like a character that just kind of punch this, do this, like kind of like Hunwoo. Like I love Hunwoo. I love his design. I love his voice lines and stuff. But like his he's not very like. I wouldn't say hard to play, but okay, I'll leave that for later, because I might actually, I'm probably going to do a Hunwoo guide eventually, because, like you said, I do play a lot of Hunwoo, because I find him very fun. I find his voice lines to be incredibly fun. I just like something about, like, when he yells, like, keep your guard up, something about that just, like, gets me hyped in the moment. It just gets me in the moment in that battle. But I've been battling for too long, and this is supposed to be kind of the end of the video, so I'm going to stop it here. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. If you guys think these are stupid, I should stop doing them. If you do enjoy them, but yeah, I guess I'll see you guys around.